and thank you for joining us for this episode of The State of Leadership, Simple and Beyond. That is Robert Hilliard. I am Whitnie Wiley, and we are here on Thursdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific, talking all things leadership. And today we're going to start with probably what should be a foundational question. Right. We were having a conversation a couple of weeks ago, exploring some different topics. And Robert, you posed this question. You caught me a little off guard, I have to say, but it is a question that is certainly worth posing, right? Do you need good leadership? Do you need to have effective leadership? And if you posed it differently than that, feel free to correct me, but the essence, do you need good leadership, right? We are here on this program talking about how to be a more effective leader, how to be a good leader, a great leader, an exceptional leader, whatever your goal is, kind of leader. But the reality is that there are leaders who are none of those things. And the question is, do they need to be anything different? So, opening thoughts.
Opening thoughts. This is a very complex topic. It seems like it's very simple, but it's complex. I think that the question I posed to you is good leadership needed or necessary? Yep. And we were talking about another very complex issue that we won't go into right now because it's not part of our thing, but we generally don't bring up politics. I will later on, not American politics, because we steer clear of that for obvious reasons. But I will bring up a political issue, I will say.
You know, it's interesting because for me, the question and the concept of whether or not it's needed is, so here's my simple answer. Here's the simple answer. No. Right? I don't know if that's a spoiler alert, because I believe in great leadership. I believe in effective leadership, and I believe that your bottom line is better, the health of your organization as it relates to people. And that's what we are talking about here, right? We studied organizational development and leadership, which is in essence the study of people, humans in organizations, and how to create organizations where people can thrive and the business can thrive, and it's not mutually exclusive. At the same time, the answer is no. There are companies, there are departments, divisions, families, etc., that governments that survive and dare say even are successful, right? Successful with the air quotes, successful and good, great, effective leadership is not present. I have worked in some of those places. I have been in other situations where the organization itself didn't, but the department that I worked in had great leadership, but the greater organization did not. And the other way around, where the organization itself had pretty good leadership, but the department or the person I directly reported to did not, right? So there are all sorts of permutations that can exist around this. And for me, ultimately, it comes down to, and this is the question that I ask, particularly when I'm training managers and we're talking leadership and team building. What is it that you want, right? And I ask that question here a lot. What is it that you want? What's your vision for yourself, your organization, whatever size or wherever your organization is within the broader context of organization. And ultimately, what is success? Right. And if you don't have a clear understanding of what success is for you or what that vision is, then you could very easily not have good leadership, but things could get done. And we talk about that frequently. You can get the work done. Micromanaging can get the work done. Is that the best way to get the work done? And do you have ultimately what you want? And the studies have shown that when you have good, effective leadership, how it improves the bottom line, how it improves employee engagement, the health of the organization, and creates thriving environments that are more than just people sort of showing up and basically white knuckling it through it.
Yeah, I think that when we talk about leadership and when we pose these questions, I like to dig into my pop culture bag and pull things out that people can really latch onto. And when I think about when you said we were asking, going back and forth with this question, and you were like, well, good leadership is not necessary, and I tend to agree with you. Now, if you look at places like or things like or events like what's going on in Syria, you would say that good leadership is absolutely necessary, because when you are leading by, well, I don't want to say leading, when you're moving, when you're, okay, I'll use the term leading your organization by coercion, you can get things done. You can, and if your modus operandi is fear and disappearing people in the middle of the night when they disagree with you, or how that goes in organizations, firing people when they disagree with you, there will be a backlash somewhere down the line. It may not happen automatically, but we talk about systems all the time. Systems have certain tolerances for things, but over time, what you're doing will have some kind of feedback against what you're doing. And that's what we see going on there. It happens all the time. So the pop culture reference that I'll use is Star Wars. Bad leadership, dark leadership, sometimes they call it that, or they call it anti-leadership, whatever, coercion, what we usually call it, is like the dark side of the force.
Right.
It's easy. It's easy. You can make people, you can terrify people, you can make them afraid of you. They will get work done. But the ramifications of that is they will start a rebel alliance where they are working against you.
Yeah.
And eventually they will overthrow you. I've seen this happen in organizations plenty of times. I worked in an organization where there was I'm not going to, I never use any names or identities or change to protect the innocent or guilty. I worked in an organization where a very high-ranking individual, that was their leadership style. Just really, I don't know if they really enjoyed making people cry, but they would do it all the time. At least once a week, there'd be somebody just in tears after a meeting, sometimes during the meeting. Didn't matter what gender the person was. It could be a male or female. I've seen this person break men down and have them sobbing in his office. Women, the same thing. And they seem to enjoy it. And eventually did that to the wrong person. That person was not related to somebody over them, but knew somebody who was. Went to that person and had that person fired in the most spectacular way. And just to give you some context, this was not someone who was a middle manager. This was somebody who was very high up in the organization. And so it does happen. It will happen. You can be a dictator in a country, in a government, and just leading by coercion and disappearing people,
Right.
eventually, to coin a phrase, you will get your comeuppance. It happens. So sometimes it takes many decades, sometimes it takes generations, often not. But so those are my references for today.
No, I think those are very appropriate, and it speaks to what does it mean to be successful, right? What does it mean to get your vision? If you don't care about any of those things, I just want the work done. I just want what I want done. And coercion is the way, or fear, etc., is the tactic or the strategies that's used to get that done. And you're okay with the consequences or the potential consequences, or constantly, in the examples that you use, maybe I would say maybe until about a week ago, maybe a little less looking over your shoulder, but over the course of the last week, maybe looking over your shoulder, even for corporate CEOs, right? If looking over your shoulder is okay with you, then do do it whatever way you want, right? Give it no thought to, could I do this a better way? Could I get the same results in terms of financial metrics, that corporate bottom line? Could I get the same results in another way, rather than fear and coercion, so that I don't have to deal with the turnover, or a sour culture, or employee disengagement, right? At the expense of creativity or innovation, right? All the things that we know that are results of strong, effective leadership. If it's okay that success simply means that the work gets done, or that the company continues to survive, not necessarily thrive, not necessarily be number one in your industry, not be the training ground for your competition. If that's okay with you, then you can certainly take that approach. So when I say yes, it is possible, it's very much dependent on what one's definition of success is, and ultimately what it is that you want in pursuit of having things your way.
Yep, I want to put a fine point on something you said. I don't want to. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, because I really do. I really do. I really do disagree with you. But you said when you started, you said, I just want to get the work done. To me, somebody who wants to get the work done is still not necessarily a bad leader. When somebody wants to get things done for themselves, that's you see, like if you can be you can say, I want to get the work done, and I'm going to use coercion to get it done. I want to have a little faith here and tend to believe that people that do that just don't know a better way. Right.
We can give them the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
For sure.
But when somebody is doing those things and benefiting only themselves or their kids, that's when I put them in the dictator, really dark leadership, as Peter Northouse calls it, in that particular camp. It's like, it's not to help the organization, it's not to help the family, it's not to help the country or the government, it's to help them. That is not good leadership. Now, you can certainly get results done that way. You can get a bunch of cronies that agree with you, that want to do things your way, that will benefit by doing the same negative things that you're doing.
Right.
But eventually that will backfire at some point. when we see all the time when regimes get overthrown, I think that I don't know the former dictator of Syria, but I would hazard to guess that they didn't think it would ever come to an end, but it did, and they fled the country. They're now in Russia. And not that we never belittle anybody on the show that ends up hurt or deceased, but the CEO of United Health certainly didn't see that coming. So these are the things that you have to be mindful of, and we're not passing judgment on that person's leadership style. We don't know anything about that person's leadership style. We only know what we see on the news about the backlash from some of the practices of the executives there and the organization. But those are things that happen when you're not leading effectively. Now, I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if, I don't know how that person was leading that organization, but I could hazard a guess if this is going on. So just wanted to put that out there.
No, that's appropriate. And I think we can look at some other companies and some things that have happened. Going maybe a little further back, we could look at Enron.
Oh yeah,
right. And the ethical leadership, and I think that's the other part of this is, yes, we can talk about getting the work done, and I would tend to agree with you, and you are always welcome to disagree with me.
I just really do.
You will not hurt my feelings or anything.
I just really do.
And I could learn something, so it's okay. It's okay when you disagree with me, but we can look at Enron, right, and Wells Fargo a couple of years ago. And so in order to get a particular outcome, the nature of the leadership and what was encouraged or allowed being unethical in that. So being unethical in my mind is definitely poor leadership, right? Unethical leadership is poor leadership. You could get the results. And so it becomes important to separate or segregate the results from the method or the strategy used to get the results. And it could, I would disagree with you, I think, to this point. It may not be solely to the advantage of the person. It could benefit the organization as a whole, but it's at the expense of something.
True.
Particularly at the expense of espoused values.
Yes.
And for me, that becomes the thing. If you set up an organization and you are honest about your values, and your values say, we are, unethical, not these words specifically, but to the effect of, we're unethical. We're going to do whatever, any means necessary, right? Any means necessary. And we'll do whatever it takes to be number one in the market or to crawl up the ladder or whatever. And the heck with everyone else, the heck with legal, ethical, moral issues, what we're asking employees to do, whether they're happy, healthy, any of those things. And we're just going to push and push and push. And until we get the numbers that we want, right? So it may not inure solely to that leader, could inure to the benefit of the organization as a whole, but it is not for the benefit, certainly, of the rank and file, right? What they're being asked to do. And I think back to a situation that I've worked in where, I was asked, my role was to provide counsel and guidance, right? Advice and counsel guidance, and I would give that, and then it would be ignored. And I'm like, well, hands off. You're in charge. You're the leader. You can do whatever you want. Here are the consequences. Are these the consequences that you want? Are these the results that you want? And are you going to take ownership of that when it goes sideways? And so, again, yes, you're in charge of a department, of a unit, of an organization, a country, a family, whatever. You can do whatever you want, however you want. But when you look at the totality of the situation, are you getting what you want? And I dare say, not in every situation, but most, and at least there's lip service to this, that CEOs want happy, engaged employees, productive, creative, innovative, bringing that to the team, air quotes team, bringing that to the team. The challenge is, and what we're talking about here is when you are making decisions that are contrary to getting the results that you want. And we did a whole episode on that, right? Really paying attention to the strategies and the methods that you use, and asking the questions of whether or not what you are asking for follows what you are actually doing, right? And so all of us on an individual basis, and then on a systemic and organizational level, have to ask the question, is what I'm doing getting me what I want ultimately? And am I going to take responsibility, ownership of what comes from my decisions, my actions, and what I am moving other people to do?
We've talked about families a couple of times in this episode, or mentioned families. And this is a great time of year to start talking about that, because around this time of year, people start getting together with their families, and it usually doesn't go well for many people. And those families, there's always issues that pop up. And we don't, the nature of this program is we don't usually talk about family leadership. We talk about organizational leadership. But families are organizations when you think about it. And I often look at how the matriarch or the patriarch of a family operates, especially when they are unhappy with how their children are responding to them. And it always amazes me that there is often a lack of self-awareness. And so we talk about being self-aware as one of the pillars of Simple. But self-awareness is so key. I've seen people in families, I've been a part of them in my family, I've seen other people in other families watch some of I'll say matriarch, patriarch, or some of the elder states people maneuver in such a way that they are harming themselves. It's very interesting. And the same can be said in traditional organizations. But the way you overcome that is there's two ways. You listen, you get some feedback, you ask some questions, you get some feedback, and then you do some introspection, have some self-awareness to realize that many times in these situations, the root cause is the leader when they're not getting something, when things aren't going the way they'd like them to go. And what happens in a lot of organizations is, because many leaders don't want to admit that they've made an error, they double down on the thing that is causing them the problem, and then it starts to grow exponentially. And I see it in families, I see it in organizations, I see it in communities, I see it in nonprofits, I see it in for-profits. And I think as consultants and OD practitioners, we have an advantage of being on the outside and looking in. But if you're going to hire somebody to be your outside eyes, to be able to look at your system and make suggestions, you have to at least be open to listening and doing some self-reflection.
Very true. And so I think about, you bring up families, and ultimately the systems, people are people.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is much to be learned from the interactions that we have with those closest to us. Again, asking the questions, being introspective, reflective, being self-aware,
Mm-hmm.
asking the questions, starting with, what is it that I want? What is the vision? What is success? Right? What does it mean to be successful? Is it only financial? Is it something else? Right? And what am I doing as a leader? That willingness, as you mentioned, the willingness to say, what am I doing as a leader that is leading us in a path that is not broader in the corporate organizational sense, to maybe something beyond financial success, right? And your point earlier is that eventually, right, you may get away with it for a time, which is why poor leadership is perpetuated, right? It because you're getting away with it. The numbers are good, right? I had a conversation with someone years ago after an organizational restructuring, and the concerns that were brought up by staff as part of the process of the restructuring suggested that the path that the organization was going down was not the best one.
Right.
That something else should be explored. And I had the opportunity to have a conversation with one of, I will say, the beneficiaries of the restructuring. And after some period of time, and what staff was concerned about was happening, right? That it was not going well. And a new consultant was brought in, and the consultant suggested some coaching for the people involved. And the person that I was having conversation with quite bluntly said, this has worked for me. I don't need coaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't understand why this is, I have worked myself into this position. I don't need coaching. And I think this definitely goes to your point earlier. I was like, well, if this is only about you, mm-hmm. and your success and what you get, then you're right. You don't. But your behaviors, your choices are impacting all these people down the line. Everyone else sees this problem. Therefore, at least be open-minded about the possibility and that something good could come of that. And so I will just leave it at that. Latter part didn't happen. And it's unfortunate, because a lot of what happens, and the fact that people don't leave, and here's something interesting, the fact that people don't leave, for some leaders, some people in positions of authority, I will say, for them, the fact that the financials are there and that people haven't left, notwithstanding their grumbling, their disengagement, unhappiness, lack of productivity, ingenuity, creativity, etc. Despite those things happening, the fact that they are still there says it must not be that bad.
Right.
And the reality is, it could be that bad, and people are still there for their own reasons, right? And sometimes it may be that they haven't found the replacement yet. It may be that they don't know anything else. Whatever they're doing for you, they don't know anything else. And so that is not necessarily indicative of, that everything is okay and that your leadership style or approach is the best one. And ultimately, my message today would be, as it always is, just being willing to be open to look to see if there are ways that you can make some improvements that would improve the bottom line. So if your company is doing well now with poor leadership, less than great leadership, think about how that could maybe exponentially improve your bottom line with improvements, right? The studies have just shown over and over again that when leadership improves, the metrics, including financial, improve, right? So the creativity, the engagement, the longevity, tenure, right? Reducing turnover, disengagement, improving engagement, and the like, that all makes a difference for your bottom line. So you could be solid right now, but you could be even better with the investment. And so it's worth at least asking the question and exploring that as an option.
Yeah, I agree. I just think it's really interesting how, and I've seen this play out in organizations of all types, all sizes. When leaders aren't, when something goes bad, the tendency is to blame other people instead of saying it could be someone started that, but what part are you playing as a leader, right? And so just the fact that you're as a leader, if you're willing to do that, to say, what part, how did I contribute to this? Already that can change the atmosphere of the organization.
Yes.
If you're willing to take some ownership of that. So I'm going to stay with the whole family theme a little bit, and I recall a situation where there was a family that wanted to the matriarch of this family wanted to get everybody together. Now there had been a long standing issue going on, some issues in the family where people were not getting along. But it was this person's wish to get everybody together for the holidays. And I'm saying this because this is holiday season. And everyone got together for the holiday, and it was a nightmare. They were arguing, old feuds popped up, things that happened 20 years ago. And the leader of this family, the matriarch, said, well, at least everyone was here. And to your point, it's really about your definition of success. Do you want everyone to just show up and bring the issues and not be productive, shifting over to corporate leadership? Or do you want people to come in and feel like they're contributing to something and contributing to the organization, even contributing to the society or the system around the organization, or to the government, or to wherever, or to the world, right? Where they come in and they're happy and they contribute and they can communicate without bringing up issues from, a couple of years ago, or even a week ago because they had the tools to solve those issues and to learn from those issues and to move forward. So to our central question of the day is leadership necessary? If that's what you want, then it is.
Yeah.
It is necessary. If you want to have a functional organization where you are actually caring and feeding. We haven't said that in a long time. It's an old 1990s phrase. Caring and feeding of the people that work in your organization, growing up training up those people so they can be the next generation of leaders in that organization, so that your organization has a life beyond your own, right? So it's going to continue to thrive and grow after you're long gone. Then good leadership is necessary. If you're in it for self or for just power then it's not necessary. We know we can name hundreds of people that have gotten to the top by crushing other people.
Yes.
And have achieved a level of success. We did that earlier by stepping on the backs and necks of other people. Certainly, but usually those people don't end up, leaving the planet very happy.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. And as we wrap this up, just think beyond the short term, right? Think beyond the short term, think long term, expand beyond a narrow vision of what is, and take a more, I would say, holistic approach to what could be, a more visionary approach to what could be. And no, good leadership may not be necessary for financial success, but it is essential if you want a sustainable, thriving, meaningful organization and meaningful success. And asking the questions that we've posed here, right? And starting with, what kind of success do you want to achieve? What kind of leadership is going to get you there? Yeah. Right? And not take the approach that what got you here is good enough, right? And take it that next step. Will what got me here get me there? Understanding where there is, but you don't know where there is unless you ask the question. So you've got to define success. You've got to assess your role in that as a leader, as a team member. And then I would encourage you, right? Here's a call to action, to take one action step to improve your leadership, or advocate for improved leadership if you are in such a position to do so. And to imagine what the possibilities could be when leadership doesn't just follow the bottom line, and that we have a positive bottom line, but inspires people to achieve something greater so that you can improve your bottom line, right? Not just have it is it in the black? Have it in the black?
Yes.
Or is it in the red?
Red is bad. Red is bad. Black is good.
Okay. That habit is not just having your bottom line in the black, but having it exponentially so, right? So with that, we want to thank you for joining us for this episode of The State of Leadership, Simple and Beyond. Before Robert, you share how someone can get in touch with you, I just want to mention that if you are watching this live, you're catching this on the Thursday that this initially airs. This will be our last episode for 2024. We are going to take some time off for the holidays to spend with family, and to spend with family and not just show up. Right? Because that's always the approach that I choose to take. It's very easy to say, I'll just show up. I've done that in work. I've done that in family. Don't want to live that way. You probably don't either. So if someone needed some help to improve in leadership or in their family, how could they get in touch with you?
They can reach out to me at inspireme@roberthilliardcoaching.com. And they can email, that's emailing me directly, or they can go to my website, Robert Hilliard Coaching, and go to that contact form, fill that out, tell me what you want to work on, and we'll set up a discovery call to see if we are a good match for each other.
Awesome. And if you want to reach out to me, shiftingintoaction.now.site, shiftingintoaction.now.site, there is a couple of gifts there for you. Avail yourself of ebooks that will help you on this journey of asking questions, what kind of boss you want to be, all right, what kind of vision you have, there for you, and could help you make improvements on how you're showing up, how you're leading. So with that, again, we want to thank you for joining us and not just for this episode, but in 2024. And we look forward to seeing you in the new year. Have an amazing holiday season, and look forward to a even more amazing 2025. So again, thank you. Thursdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific, all things leadership. And until next time, take care.